Here's your scraps, that's all you people deserve. The plastic container tilted. Leftover pasta and wilted lettuce spilled across Maya Washington's lap, dark sauce spreading across her black blazer. Flight attendant Jessica Martinez grabbed a napkin and pressed down hard, grinding the mess deeper into the fabric. Oops. Jessica's smirk widened. Let me help clean that. Maya sat motionless, hands folded. The businessman in 3A lifted his phone, recording. Other passengers craned their necks. Jessica stepped back, surveying her work. Chunks of food clung to Maya's blazer. Sauce dripped onto the seat cushion. There, Jessica said, loud enough for half the cabin to hear. All cleaned up. Maya's eyes never left Jessica's face. Her voice stayed level. Thank you. Have you ever been humiliated so publicly that you thanked your attacker, knowing they had no idea what was coming next? Maya examined her boarding pass while sauce stained her fingers. The food had already started to harden on her blazer. Jessica Martinez stood nearby, arms crossed, watching every movement. Ma'am, I need to verify this ticket, Jessica said, snatching the boarding pass. She held it up to the light like a counterfeit bill. Economy passengers don't usually sit in premium economy. This is my assigned seat, Maya replied quietly. Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Jessica's voice carried across 3 rows. She examined Maya's simple gold wedding band, her understated earrings, her stained blazer. These seats cost extra. Behind them, a young woman in 4B had started live streaming. Sarah Kim, 22, travel influencer with 250K followers on TikTok. Her phone captured everything. Y'all, something weird is happening, Sarah whispered to her camera. This flight attendant is being super problematic to this black woman for literally no reason. She just threw food at her and now she's questioning her ticket. The viewer count climbed. 47 people watching. Then 89. Maya pulled out her driver's license. Jessica studied it with theatrical suspicion, comparing the photo to Maya's face multiple times. Other passengers began shifting in their seats. The man in 3A continued recording, grinning. I need to check with the captain, Jessica announced. Stay right here. Maya's phone buzzed against her leg. The screen lit up. Washington Enterprises board meeting moved to 3 p.m. EST. She swiped it away quickly. Another notification appeared. Anderson, White House liaison, with 12 missed calls. Sarah's live stream had reached 156 viewers. Comments flooded in. This is so racist! Get her badge number. What airline is this? I'm screen recording this, Jessica returned with senior flight attendant Mike Torres, a heavy-set man in his 50s. He looked Maya up and down, taking in the food stains, her simple black pants, her canvas messenger bag. Ma'am, we're going to need you to move to the back of the aircraft, Mike said. This section is reserved for our premium passengers. My ticket says 12A. Maya held up her boarding pass. I'd prefer to remain in my assigned seat. Look, we're trying to be nice about this. Mike's voice grew louder. But you're making other passengers uncomfortable. A businessman in the aisle seat turned around. Is there a problem here? No problem, Maya said calmly. Just a seating misunderstanding. She's refusing to follow crew instructions, Jessica added, loud enough for everyone to hear. Sarah's viewer count hit 487. The comments section exploded. Drag her, Jessica! This woman needs to know her place. Why is she being so difficult? But other voices emerged. This is discrimination, pure and simple. She has every right to sit there. Document everything. Maya quietly opened her laptop bag. Inside, a Goldman Sachs executive lounge tag hung from the zipper, barely visible. She pulled out her laptop and a leather portfolio stamped with initials. M.W. Chief Executive Officer. Mike noticed passengers filming. Ma'am, you're creating a disturbance. We need compliance or we'll have to involve security. I'm sitting quietly in my assigned seat, Maya replied. How is that disturbing anyone? Jessica leaned closer. Some people just don't understand how things work up here. Maya's calendar alert chimed softly. Congressional testimony, Airline Industry Discrimination, 4 p.m. She dismissed it quickly, but not before Mike caught a glimpse of her screen. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. We're experiencing a minor delay. We'll begin boarding first-class passengers in approximately 8 minutes. Sarah whispered to her camera. The captain is Captain Rodriguez. I can see his name on the door. 800 people are watching this now. The hashtag flight discrimination is starting to trend. Maya sat with food still coating her blazer, sauce now dried into dark stains. She made no move to clean herself further. Her phone showed a document titled FTC Antitrust Investigation, Preliminary Findings, before she closed the screen. Ma'am, Mike said, his patience clearly exhausted. Final warning. Move to the back, or we call security. Other passengers had begun choosing sides. A woman in 8C shook her head in disgust. Just let her sit there. She has a ticket. But the man in 3A disagreed. Rules are rules. If the crew says move, you move. Jessica's smile had returned. She pulled out her radio. We need security at gate 15. Passenger non-compliance with crew instructions. Maya's phone buzzed again. This time the screen showed, Senator Williams, Judiciary Committee, urgent. Sarah's live stream viewer count reached 1,200. She panned the camera across the cabin, capturing the divided reactions, the stained seat, Maya's calm demeanor amid the chaos. Y'all, this is about to get really serious, Sarah whispered. Security is coming. For a woman sitting in her assigned seat, with a valid ticket, because she's black. The comments section became a battlefield of opinions, but the viewer numbers kept climbing. Captain Rodriguez emerged from the cockpit at 2:47 p.m., his silver hair catching the cabin lights. He surveyed the scene. Maya sitting calmly with food stains across her blazer, Jessica and Mike flanking her like guards, passengers craning their necks to see. What's the situation? He asked Mike, not bothering to look at Maya. Passenger refusing to comply with seating instructions, Mike replied. She's been disruptive since boarding. Sarah's live stream had exploded to 2,800 viewers. She adjusted her phone angle to capture the captain's arrival. Oh no, y'all, the captain is here. This is escalating so fast. Maya sat with food still clinging to her blazer, her hands folded in her lap. The stained fabric made her look disheveled, out of place among the business travelers in pressed suits. Chunks of hardened pasta remained visible on her shoulder. The dark sauce had spread across her chest, creating an embarrassing pattern that drew stares from every passing passenger. Ma'am, Captain Rodriguez said, finally addressing her, we need you to cooperate with my crew. Move to your correct seat in the back. This is my correct seat. Maya's voice remained steady. 12A, as printed on my boarding pass. The captain barely glanced at her ticket. My crew says otherwise. We can do this easy or hard. A flight attendant from first class appeared, watching the drama unfold. 2 gate agents gathered near the jet bridge, whispering among themselves. The scene was drawing airport staff like magnets. At 2:52 p.m., security officer James Mitchell arrived, handcuffs glinting on his belt. He was tall, intimidating, with crossed arms and a skeptical expression. Behind him came gate agent Linda Carter, clipboard in hand, followed by a supervisor in a navy blazer. Passenger in 12A refusing crew instructions, Linda announced loudly, ensuring everyone heard. We need immediate compliance or removal. The supervisor, badge reading Tom Bradley, operations manager, stepped forward. Ma'am, we're trying to resolve this quietly. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Sarah whispered urgently to her camera. Security just arrived with handcuffs, y'all. For a woman sitting in her assigned seat, this is insane. The viewer count hit 4,200. Comments flooded in faster than she could read. Arrest her! She's being dramatic. Why won't she just move? Karen flight attendant. Call the news. But others pushed back. This is racial profiling. Where's her supervisor? She paid for that seat. Discrimination lawsuit incoming. The businessman in 3A stood up, still filming. Ma'am, just move to the back. You're holding up the whole flight. Several passengers murmured agreement. A woman in 5C nodded vigorously. We all have places to be. But others remained silent, uncomfortable with the escalating situation. An elderly black woman in 14C watched with pained recognition. A young Latino man in 9B shook his head, but said nothing. Maya's phone displayed 47 missed calls from Anderson, White House liaison. The screen showed message after message. Urgent. Call back immediately. She declined another incoming call without answering. "Ma'am," Officer Mitchell said, his voice carrying authority. "Stand up. You're coming with us." "On what grounds?" Maya asked. "Failure to comply with crew instructions, disturbing the peace, creating a public disturbance." His hand moved toward his handcuffs. "We can add resisting arrest if you prefer." Linda Carter consulted her clipboard dramatically. "I show no record of this passenger's reservation. The seat should be empty." She turned to other passengers. "This happens more than you'd think. People try to sneak into better seats." Maya pulled out her phone, showing her digital boarding pass with clear confirmation details. "Here's my confirmation number, seat 12A, purchased 3 days ago." Linda barely looked. "That could be doctored. We see this all the time. People Photoshop these boarding passes." Tom Bradley nodded seriously. "It's becoming a real problem in the industry." At 2:55 p.m., more passengers grew restless. A woman in 6A called out, "Can we please just take off? Some of us have connections." Her husband added, "We're going to miss our cruise departure because of this nonsense." The man in 3A nodded vigorously. "Exactly. One person is holding up 180 passengers. This is selfish." A teenager in 8A live-streamed to Instagram. "Yo, crazy drama on my flight right now. This lady won't move seats." But Sarah's camera captured another angle. The elderly black woman in 14C sat quietly, her hands trembling slightly. She'd lived through this before. The young man in 9B pulled out his phone, not to mock, but to document. A mother in 11C covered her child's eyes. Jessica stepped closer to Maya, emboldened by the backup. "Some people just don't understand their place in the world. They think rules don't apply to them." "That's exactly right," Mike agreed. "We see this attitude constantly. Entitlement has become an epidemic." Sarah's live stream reached 5,000 viewers. Local news reporter Marcus Williams slid into her DMs. "Can we interview you about this? Our crew is en route to the airport." The @BlackTravelMatters Twitter account retweeted Sarah's stream. "Happening now. Black woman harassed on flight for sitting in assigned seat. This is exactly why we document everything." #airline discrimination. #flight shame began trending. #Karen attendant appeared in hundreds of tweets. Maya's calendar showed another alert. Congressional testimony, airline industry discrimination, 4 p.m. A document folder on her screen briefly displayed Federal Aviation Discrimination Class Action, 847 cases documented. Another file read, Senate Transportation Committee, Chair Meeting Notes. At 2:58 p.m., Officer Mitchell moved closer. His radio crackled with airport security chatter. "Ma'am, final warning. Stand up and come with us voluntarily, or I'll place you under arrest for criminal trespass." The cabin fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning and the soft clicks of phone cameras. Someone's phone rang. A baby cried 3 rows back. Captain Rodriguez checked his watch impatiently. "We have a schedule to maintain. This passenger has disrupted operations long enough. We're already 12 minutes behind." Maya looked around the cabin. Dozens of eyes stared back at her. Some hostile, some curious, some sympathetic but silent. The food stains on her blazer had darkened and hardened, making her appear guilty of some undefined crime. Sarah whispered to her 6,200 viewers, "Y'all, I think they're actually going to arrest her for sitting in a seat she paid for. This is America in 2025. Officer Mitchell reached for his handcuffs. The metal clinked softly. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for—" "Wait." Maya's voice remained calm, but something in her tone made everyone pause. She stood slowly, deliberately. Every phone in the cabin tracked her movement. Maya's fingers moved across her laptop keyboard with practiced precision. The screen flickered to life, casting a blue glow across her stained blazer. Officer Mitchell's handcuffs remained half-drawn as every eye in the cabin fixed on her movements. "Before you arrest me," Maya said quietly, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." She pressed a sequence of keys. The airplane's entertainment system suddenly activated across every seatback screen in the cabin. Passengers looked up in surprise as their individual screens displayed the same image. The Washington Enterprises logo appeared in crisp corporate blue and silver. "What the hell?" Jessica whispered, her confident smirk beginning to fade. Maya's fingers continued working. The next screen showed a professional headshot. Maya Washington, Chief Executive Officer. The photo matched the woman sitting in 12A perfectly, though the version on screen wore an expensive navy suit instead of a food-stained blazer. Sarah's live stream viewer count exploded past 8,000. "Oh my God," she whispered to her camera. "Oh my God, y'all, she's a CEO." The businessman in 3A lowered his phone slowly, his expression shifting from amusement to confusion. Around the cabin, passengers leaned forward to read the screens. "Annual revenue, $2.8 billion, appeared in bold text. Fortune 500 ranking, numbered 127. Employees worldwide, 47,000. Captain Rodriguez stepped backward, his face draining of color. Officer Mitchell's hand froze on his handcuffs. Tom Bradley fumbled for his radio but seemed unable to form words. Maya's voice remained perfectly calm as she addressed the cabin. "My name is Maya Washington. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Washington Enterprises. We specialize in transportation infrastructure and logistics." Jessica's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Mike Torres grabbed the back of a seat for support. The screens updated again. Breaking, Washington Enterprises announces $500 million airline industry partnership review. The news ticker scrolled across every screen. CEO Washington to testify before Congress on airline discrimination practices, 4 p.m. today. Sarah couldn't control her excitement. "Y'all, the comments are going insane. 15,000 people are watching this right now. This is the plot twist of the century." Maya stood fully now, her posture somehow more commanding despite the food stains. "Jessica, earlier you threw leftover food at me and said, 'That's all people like you deserve.' I'm curious, what exactly did you think I deserved and why?" Jessica's face had gone completely white. I didn't know. I mean, no," Maya said softly. "You didn't know. But you assumed. Based on what, exactly?" The entertainment screens shifted again. A Washington Post headline appeared. "Washington Enterprises CEO to lead Federal Aviation Discrimination Task Force." Below it, a CNN breaking news banner. "Major airline partnerships under review following discrimination complaints." Captain Rodriguez found his voice, though it cracked slightly. "Ms. Washington, there's been a terrible misunderstanding." "Has there?" Maya asked. "Your crew threw food at me, questioned my ticket, claimed I was trespassing, and called security to arrest me for sitting in the seat I purchased. What exactly was misunderstood?" Officer Mitchell slowly returned his handcuffs to their holder. His radio crackled with urgent chatter from Airport Command, but he seemed unable to respond. Tom Bradley stepped forward, his clipboard trembling in his hands. "Ma'am, please, if we could just discuss this privately." "Privately?" Maya gestured to the phones recording throughout the cabin. 8,000 people are watching this live right now. The time for private discussions has passed. The screens updated with precise financial data. Washington Enterprises Airline Holdings, Delta, Partnership 127M. Annual contract, United Logistics, 89M. Annual contract, American Cargo, 156mm. Annual contract, Southwest Ground Services, $78. Annual contract. Sarah whispered to her camera. "Y'all, she basically owns pieces of every major airline. This woman has power." Maya's phone buzzed insistently. She glanced at it. "Senator Williams, Judiciary Committee, urgent call before testimony." She declined the call and looked directly at Jessica. You said people like me don't belong to certain sections. Which people were you referring to? Jessica's hands shook as she gripped her name tag. I didn't mean... I wasn't trying to... You weren't trying to do what? The silence stretched across the cabin like a taut wire. Every passenger held their breath. Sarah's live stream had reached 12,000 viewers, the comments scrolling too fast to read. Maya opened another document on her laptop. The screens displayed Federal Transportation Discrimination Report. Draft findings. A list of statistics appeared. 847 documented cases of airline discrimination, 73% involving passengers of color, 89% occurring in economy, premium economy sections. Average incident duration, 23 minutes. Crew disciplinary action, 12% of cases. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his authority completely evaporated. Ms. Washington, please, we can resolve this immediately. Let me personally ensure. Maya held up one hand. The gesture was small but carried absolute authority. Captain, your crew has spent the last 23 minutes humiliating me in front of your passengers and 8,000 live stream viewers. The food your attendant threw at me is still staining my blazer. She gestured to the hardened chunks of pasta on her shoulder. This $800 blazer now serves as evidence of your crew's behavior. The screens changed one final time. A single line appeared in large text. Washington Enterprises Federal Aviation Advisory Board. Chairwoman, Maya Washington. The cabin erupted in whispers and gasps. Several passengers covered their mouths in shock. The businessman in 3A sank into his seat, his face pale. Sarah's voice rose above the murmurs. Y'all, she's the chairwoman of the Aviation Board. She literally helps decide airline regulations. Maya closed her laptop with a soft click. The entertainment screens went dark, returning to their normal flight information displays. Now then, she said, her voice carrying easily across the silent cabin. Shall we discuss how to resolve this situation properly? Maya remained standing, her food-stained blazer a stark contrast to the corporate power she'd just revealed. The hardened pasta chunks on her shoulder caught the cabin lights, a visible reminder of Jessica's assault. The cabin buzzed with nervous whispers as passengers processed what they'd witnessed. Sarah's live stream had exploded to 18,000 viewers, the comments section a blur of shocked reactions. Captain Rodriguez fumbled for his radio with trembling hands. Ground control, I need the airline's crisis management team at Gate 15 immediately. Priority 1 emergency. The response crackled back. Flight 447, we're tracking the social media situation. CEO Mitchell is en route personally. ETA 12 minutes. Maya opened her phone and dialed. Anderson? Yes, it's Maya. I'm going to be late for the congressional testimony. We have a situation that requires immediate resolution. She put the call on the speaker without hesitation. The authoritative voice of White House Transportation Liaison David Anderson filled the cabin, causing several passengers to gasp audibly. Maya, what's happening? Senator Williams is waiting for your discrimination report. The entire Transportation Committee is assembled. I'm currently experiencing airline discrimination firsthand. Live, documented, with 18,000 witnesses watching in real time. Maya gestured to the food stains covering her blazer. Your flight attendant threw leftover food at me, claimed I was trespassing, and attempted to have me arrested. The irony of testifying about airline bias while being victimized by it isn't lost on me. Dead silence from the phone. Then Anderson's voice, tight with controlled anger. Jesus Christ, Maya. What airline? What do you need? Atlantic Airways. I need 20 minutes to resolve this properly using established federal protocols. Tell the senator we'll have a real-time case study for the hearing that demonstrates both the problem and the solution. Maya ended the call and turned to address Captain Rodriguez, her presence somehow filling the entire cabin despite her modest height. Captain, I'm going to make this very simple for everyone involved. You have exactly 15 minutes to provide a comprehensive resolution that addresses both this specific incident and prevents future occurrences. Tom Bradley stepped forward, his clipboard forgotten, sweat visible on his forehead. Ms. Washington, what exactly are you requesting? I want to ensure we meet your expectations completely. Maya pulled up a detailed document on her phone, her fingers moving with corporate precision. Washington Enterprises maintains significant partnerships with this airline and 7 others. Our quarterly analysis shows customer satisfaction ratings have declined 23%, specifically among minority travelers over the past 18 months. Today's incident demonstrates exactly why. She scrolled through precise financial data, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to boardroom negotiations. Your airline submitted Federal Aviation Administration applications for a $150 million route expansion to Southeast Asia last month. The approval committee meets Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Captain Rodriguez's face went completely ashen. His hands shook as he gripped his radio. Ma'am, you're not suggesting that this incident would affect... I'm stating facts, Captain. Maya's tone remained calm, but carried unmistakable corporate authority. I chair the Civilian Advisory Board that provides regulatory recommendations to that committee. Our input carries significant weight in approval decisions. Jessica finally found her voice, panic evident as she stepped closer. Please, Ms. Washington, I have 3 children at home. I can't lose my job. I didn't know who you were. If I had known... Stop. Maya's single word cut through Jessica's pleading. That's precisely the problem. You didn't need to know who I was. You needed to treat me with basic human dignity regardless of my identity, my appearance, or your assumptions about my background. Maya addressed the entire cabin, her voice projecting easily to every seat. This incident violates Federal Aviation Regulation 14 CFR Part 382, which explicitly prohibits discrimination in air travel based on race, ethnicity, or national origin. The food assault, captured on multiple devices and live-streamed to thousands, constitutes both harassment under federal civil rights law and potential criminal battery charges. She turned back to Tom Bradley, pulling up legal documents on her phone. Your crew claimed I had no valid reservation, publicly accused me of fraud, labeled me a trespasser, and attempted to have me arrested. All while 18,000 people watched online and documented every illegal action. Sarah whispered urgently to her camera, Y'all, the legal receipts are coming. She's got chapter and verse of federal law. This woman came prepared for war. Maya's phone rang with an unmistakable authority tone. She answered immediately, putting it on speaker. Washington. Maya, it's Senator Williams. I'm watching the live stream from the committee room. Half of Congress is tuned in right now. The Secretary of Transportation just joined us. What do you need from federal leadership? The cabin could hear every word through the phone's speaker, and several passengers covered their mouths in amazement. Maya smiled slightly, the first genuine expression of satisfaction she'd shown. Senator, perfect timing. I'm conducting a live case study in airline discrimination and corporate accountability. Would you like to observe the resolution process in real time? Absolutely. This is exactly the kind of systematic accountability we've been discussing. I'm keeping this line open for the committee to monitor. Maya looked directly at Captain Rodriguez, her gaze unwavering. Here's what happens next. You have exactly 12 minutes remaining to implement the following comprehensive resolution. First, immediate public acknowledgement that this incident was handled improperly, with specific apology for the food assault, false fraud accusations, and attempted wrongful arrest. Second, implementation of enhanced sensitivity training for all customer-facing crew members, with mandatory quarterly recertification and federal compliance monitoring. Third, establishment of an independent passenger advocacy system with real-time reporting capabilities, bypassing internal airline review processes entirely. Fourth, a $50,000 donation to the National Association of Black Aviation Professionals within 72 hours, with public documentation of the contribution. Fifth, a detailed written action plan to prevent similar incidents, submitted to both my office and the Senate Transportation Committee within 1 week. Tom Bradley frantically scribbled notes on his clipboard, his pen barely keeping up. Ms. Washington, I can authorize the first 4 items immediately through my operational authority, but the financial donation requires... Maya held up her phone, showing an incoming call display. CEO Mitchell, Atlantic Airways Headquarters, urgent. That would be your CEO calling now. She answered without hesitation. Maya Washington. Ms. Washington, this is James Mitchell, CEO of Atlantic Airways. I've been fully briefed on the situation by our crisis team. Please accept our most sincere and unreserved corporate apologies for this completely unacceptable treatment. Maya put the call on speaker, ensuring every passenger could hear. Mr. Mitchell, your crew assaulted me with food, falsely accused me of criminal fraud, and attempted to have me arrested for sitting in my purchased seat. All of this was captured on live video with 20,000 witnesses watching. We're prepared to meet all your requirements immediately and without reservation. The $50,000 donation will be processed within the next 2 hours. I'm personally flying to your location to oversee the complete resolution. That won't be necessary, Mr. Mitchell. Your ground team has 8 more minutes to implement the agreed resolution framework. I'll be evaluating compliance in real time. Senator Williams's voice crackled through Maya's other phone. Maya, this demonstrates exactly the kind of immediate accountability and systematic reform we need throughout the aviation industry. Real-time transparency with federal oversight. Jessica stepped forward again, tears streaming down her face, the food stains on Maya's blazer serving as a constant visual reminder of her actions. Ms. Washington, please. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I was completely wrong. I let my personal biases and assumptions control my professional behavior. Maya studied her carefully for a long moment. Jessica, your personal apology is noted and appreciated. But individual apologies don't prevent the next passenger from experiencing what I did today. Only systematic policy changes and cultural accountability create lasting prevention. She turned to address the entire cabin, gesturing to the cameras still recording throughout the aircraft. Everyone here has witnessed discrimination in action tonight. You've seen how quickly assumptions became accusations, how easily human dignity was discarded, and how power structures respond when held accountable through documented evidence and public transparency. Sarah's live stream showed 25,000 viewers now, with the hashtag #WashingtonV's airline trending nationally across all social media platforms. The food stains on this blazer, Maya gestured to the hardened chunks still clinging to her expensive fabric, represent more than damaged clothing. They represent the daily humiliations faced by travelers who don't conform to certain visual expectations or assumptions. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, his authority completely evaporated, replaced by genuine contrition. Ms. Washington, I want to personally apologize not just as this flight's captain, but as a professional who failed fundamental standards. My crew's behavior was inexcusable, discriminatory, and violated every principle of passenger service. We failed our passengers, our profession, and basic human decency. Captain, your acknowledgement is important and appreciated. But what matters now is ensuring this never happens to anyone else anywhere in your system. Tom Bradley consulted his phone frantically, receiving rapid-fire updates. The CEO has personally authorized all requirements. Training schedules are being restructured company-wide. The independent advocacy system goes live across our entire network next Monday. Maya checked her watch with corporate precision. 5 minutes remaining. Her phone buzzed with a priority text from Anderson. Senate hearing delayed 30 minutes to accommodate your testimony. National media requesting exclusive interviews. This is front-page news. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya addressed the cabin one final time, her voice carrying both authority and genuine warmth. You've witnessed something historically significant today. Not just discrimination in action, but systematic accountability, creating immediate, measurable change through strategic pressure and documented evidence. She gestured to the cameras still recording throughout the cabin, the food stains on her blazer catching the light. 25,000 people have observed how entrenched power structures respond when held accountable through transparency, legal knowledge, and strategic corporate pressure. This is precisely how sustainable progress happens, one thoroughly documented incident at a time. The cabin atmosphere had completely transformed in the span of 30 minutes. Jessica Martinez stood near the galley, no longer the smirking tormentor but a subdued employee facing immediate consequences. Her eyes kept drifting to the food stains on Maya's blazer, tangible evidence of her discriminatory assault. Mike Torres fidgeted with his sleeve, avoiding eye contact with passengers who'd witnessed his active complicity in the humiliation. Sarah's live stream maintained 22,000 viewers as she whispered rapid updates. Y'all, the energy in here is completely different now. The power dynamic has totally flipped. She literally changed everything with data and law. Captain Rodriguez's radio crackled with urgent communications. Flight 447, we have CEO Mitchell's private jet requesting immediate priority clearance to your gate. He's demanding to board your aircraft. Negative. Ground control. Ms. Washington specifically indicated CEO presence won't be necessary for resolution. Rodriguez glanced at Maya, who nodded approvingly while brushing a piece of dried pasta from her blazer. Tom Bradley consulted his tablet, reading corporate updates streaming in real time from headquarters. Ms. Washington, corporate leadership has implemented the following immediate disciplinary actions across our system. He cleared his throat, his voice carrying across the hushed cabin with new authority. Effective immediately, Jessica Martinez is suspended without pay pending a full federal discrimination investigation. Mike Torres is permanently reassigned to ground baggage operations with mandatory 40-hour sensitivity training. I'm required to complete 80 hours of bias awareness education and diversity leadership certification within 30 days. Jessica's shoulders sagged as the full weight of consequences settled in. She approached Maya's row tentatively, her hands trembling. Miss Washington, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness or consideration, but I want you to know that witnessing your response today has fundamentally changed how I see my own behavior. I'll use my suspension time to examine my biases and work actively on becoming a better person. Maya studied her carefully, noting the genuine remorse, but also recognizing the need for systemic, rather than individual solutions. Jessica, personal growth and self-reflection are admirable and necessary. But the real question isn't whether you'll change, it's whether you'll actively advocate for others when you witness discrimination, not just apologize after you've participated in perpetuating it. I will, I promise you that. I'll speak up. The airplane's intercom system crackled to life with unprecedented clarity. Instead of Captain Rodriguez's familiar voice, a new speaker addressed every passenger directly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is CEO James Mitchell speaking to you via secure satellite connection from Atlantic Airways headquarters. I want to personally apologize to Ms. Washington and every single passenger who witnessed today's completely unacceptable treatment. Passengers looked around in amazement, many pulling out phones to record this extraordinary moment. Several whispered to companions. None had ever experienced a CEO addressing passengers mid-flight about discrimination. Atlantic Airways has fundamentally failed in our most basic duty to treat all passengers with dignity, respect, and equality. Today's incident represents a systemic failure that demands immediate, comprehensive reform. Effective within the next 24 hours, we're implementing what we're calling the Dignity First Protocol across our entire global fleet of 847 aircraft. Maya opened her laptop and wirelessly connected to the airplane's entertainment system, displaying the detailed new policy across every seatback screen throughout the cabin. Dignity. First Protocol. Comprehensive reform. Zero tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior by any crew member. Immediate suspension and federal reporting for bias-related incidents. Independent passenger advocacy hotline with 24/7 external reviewers. Real-time incident reporting system, bypassing internal airline management. Quarterly mandatory bias training for all customer-facing employees. Monthly diversity audits conducted by external civil rights organizations. Financial penalties for crew members engaging in discriminatory behavior. Promotion requirements now include demonstrated commitment to passenger equality. The CEO's voice continued with specific details. We're also immediately establishing a $5 million annual fund for minority aviation professional development, to be administered completely independently by the National Association of Black Aviation Professionals. This isn't charity, it's accountability. Sarah's comments section exploded with reactions scrolling too fast to read. This is history being made live. She changed the whole industry in one flight. Other airlines better take notes right now. Power moves only. No drama, just results. Maya's phone displayed a constant stream of missed calls from major news networks. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, The Washington Post, and international outlets. She systematically declined them all, maintaining focus on the immediate resolution process. Tom Bradley continued reading from his tablet, corporate updates streaming in continuously. The Passenger Advocacy app launches system-wide next Monday across all 847 aircraft. Any passenger experiencing discrimination can photograph or video incidents, upload them directly to independent reviewers who have legal authority to take immediate corrective action, including flight diversions if necessary. A passenger in 7C, genuinely curious about the practical implementation, raised her hand. How exactly does the real-time reporting system work? What prevents airlines from just ignoring complaints? Maya answered directly, her expertise in transportation policy evident. External civil rights organizations receive simultaneous notifications of all incidents. Complaints trigger automatic federal reporting to the Department of Transportation. Airlines face immediate financial penalties for each verified incident, with escalating fines for repeat violations. Complete transparency with no internal filtering. Captain Rodriguez added, consulting new operational directives on his phone. Corporate headquarters is also mandating installation of bias monitoring cameras in all cabins within 90 days, with footage reviewed monthly by independent third-party diversity experts who report directly to federal transportation authorities. The businessman in 3A, who'd been filming Maya's initial humiliation as entertainment an hour earlier, raised his hand tentatively. Ms. Washington, I want to publicly apologize for my behavior. I was wrong to record your treatment as some kind of social media content. I should have intervened instead of being a passive bystander. Your apology is acknowledged, Maya replied thoughtfully. But more importantly, you now understand how quickly supposedly neutral bystanders can become active participants in discrimination through their silence or, in your case, their entertainment. Use that awareness to interrupt bias when you witness it in the future. Maya's phone rang with unmistakable governmental authority. Washington. Maya, it's Anderson calling from the White House Situation Room. The Secretary of Transportation is here with me. The Senate hearing room is completely packed. Every major news network is carrying this live. Are you prepared to testify? Maya glanced at the food stains still visible on her expensive blazer, then at the dozens of cameras still recording throughout the cabin, capturing every moment of this unprecedented corporate accountability process. Actually, David, I think we should conduct the congressional testimony right here, live from the aircraft. Real witnesses, documented evidence, immediate corporate response, and systematic reform happening in real time. Here, on the airplane, during the incident resolution? Why not? We have 22,000 people watching live documentation, verified discrimination with clear evidence, immediate corporate response under federal oversight, and systematic reform being implemented as we speak. This represents exactly what congressional oversight and federal accountability should look like in practice. Senator Williams' voice joined the conference call. Maya, that's absolutely brilliant and unprecedented. We can patch the entire Senate Transportation Committee directly into the live stream for live testimony. This becomes a master class in real-time federal accountability. Sarah nearly dropped her phone in excitement. Y'all, she's about to testify to the United States Congress from this airplane, while wearing the evidence of discrimination on her blazer. This is the most epic demonstration of institutional accountability I've ever witnessed. Within minutes, Maya's laptop displayed the Senate Transportation Committee hearing room in Washington, D.C. Senator Williams sat at the committee table, surrounded by other senators and federal transportation officials, all watching intently through the live stream connection. Senator Williams, distinguished committee members, Maya began, her voice carrying easily across both the airplane cabin and the Senate chamber. What you're witnessing in real time is discrimination, immediate accountability, and systematic reform happening simultaneously through documented transparency. She gestured deliberately to the food stains still visible on her blazer, ensuring both audiences could see the evidence clearly. This is physical evidence of assault. The food thrown at me by the Atlantic Airways crew, the false accusations of fraud, the attempted wrongful arrest, all documented by multiple independent witnesses and live-streamed to thousands of viewers for federal verification. Senator Williams leaned forward, clearly impressed by the unprecedented nature of the testimony. Ms. Washington, how do you assess the airline's response speed and comprehensiveness to this documented discrimination incident? Swift and comprehensive, Senator, but critically, only because of immediate public pressure, documented evidence, and real-time federal oversight. Without cameras, live stream witnesses, and congressional monitoring, I would very likely have been removed from this aircraft with absolutely no recourse or accountability. Maya stood and addressed both audiences simultaneously, her stained blazer serving as a powerful visual reminder of the discrimination. This incident demonstrates precisely why the Transportation Discrimination Prevention Act isn't just important. It's absolutely essential for systematic change rather than reactive damage control. Tom Bradley stepped forward into the camera frame. Senator Williams, if I may address the committee directly, Atlantic Airways commits to actively supporting comprehensive federal legislation requiring mandatory industry-wide anti-discrimination protocols with real enforcement mechanisms. Noted and deeply appreciated for the record, Senator Williams replied formally. Ms. Washington, based on this real-time case study, what specific recommendations do you have for immediate industry-wide implementation? Maya pulled up a comprehensive policy document she'd been developing. Immediate mandatory implementation of bias training with federal compliance monitoring, independent oversight systems that bypass internal airline review processes, passenger advocacy programs with legal authority, and meaningful financial penalties for discrimination incidents. But most critically, systematic cultural change that values human dignity over corporate convenience or employee assumptions. 6 months later, Maya Washington stood before the International Aviation Equality Summit in Geneva, wearing an immaculate navy blazer without a single stain. Behind her, a massive screen displayed statistics that told a remarkable transformation story spanning the entire global aviation industry. Airline discrimination complaints, down 67% industry-wide across 43 countries. Passenger advocacy reports filed through the Dignity First system. Over 47,000 submitted, with 94% resolved within 24 hours through independent oversight. The Dignity First protocol, now adopted by 247 airlines across 6 continents, affecting over 2.8 billion annual passengers. The audience of aviation executives, civil rights leaders, government transportation officials, and international human rights advocates listened with rapt attention as Maya continued her keynote address. What began as a moment of profound humiliation on Atlantic Airways Flight 447, food thrown at me, false accusations, attempted arrest, became a catalyst for the most comprehensive systematic change in aviation industry history. Not because of anger, retaliation, or emotional response, but because of strategic action guided by precise data, federal law, documented evidence, and unwavering commitment to human dignity. The screen displayed a photo of Maya's original stained blazer, now preserved in the Smithsonian's Civil Rights Collection, alongside the congressional testimony footage that had been viewed over 45 million times worldwide. In her hotel room that evening, Maya video called Sarah Kim, whose original livestream had sparked this global aviation reform movement. Sarah now works as an international travel equity advocate. Her follower count has grown to 4.2 million across platforms, with corporate sponsorships from human rights organizations. Maya, the Dignity First app just hit 8.7 million downloads globally, Sarah reported with infectious excitement. But here's what's incredible. Passengers are using it to report positive experiences too. Airlines are literally competing to achieve the highest dignity ratings on the platform. It's become a competitive advantage to treat people well. Maya smiled genuinely, noting how market forces had aligned with moral imperatives. The most powerful sustainable change happens when economic systems reward ethical behavior instead of merely punishing discrimination after the fact. The video call expanded to include Tom Bradley, who'd been promoted to Senior Vice President of Global Passenger Experience after successfully leading Atlantic Airways' complete cultural transformation. Ms. Washington, our customer satisfaction scores among all demographic groups have reached the highest levels in company history. Treating every human being with fundamental dignity and respect has become our strongest competitive advantage and most profitable business strategy. Jessica Martinez joined the call from her new position as Director of Bias Prevention Training at Atlantic Airways. After her suspension, She'd completed extensive civil rights education and now led industry-wide discrimination prevention programs. Maya, I've trained over 15,000 aviation professionals this year. Every session begins with the video of Flight 447 and my personal testimony about unconscious bias. That moment changed not just policies, but hearts and minds throughout the industry. 3 states had passed comprehensive legislation requiring bias training for all transportation employees. The Federal Aviation Administration now mandated quarterly discrimination audits for all commercial airlines. Maya's congressional testimony, broadcast live from Seat 12A while wearing evidence of assault, had become a required curriculum in business schools, law schools, and public policy programs worldwide. But the most meaningful transformation appeared in countless daily interactions. Flight attendants in Detroit offering genuine assistance to elderly passengers, regardless of their appearance. Security officers in Miami de-escalating conflicts with patience and respect rather than authority and assumptions. Gate agents in Phoenix treated every traveler as deserving of dignity, whether they wore designer suits or simple clothing. Maya's strategic approach had definitively proven that sustainable progress emerges not from emotional reactions or public shaming, but from intelligent action guided by law, documentation, and systematic accountability. She'd transformed one moment of personal humiliation into comprehensive institutional change, affecting millions of travelers globally. The NAACP Business Leadership Award sat prominently in her office, alongside recognition from the United Nations Human Rights Council. But Maya treasured something else far more. A growing collection of letters from travelers worldwide sharing stories of respectful treatment, discrimination prevented, dignity preserved, and hope restored. Letters from an elderly Latina woman in Texas who was treated with kindness instead of suspicion. A young black man in London who experienced helpful service rather than harassment. A Muslim family in Australia who flew without facing religious profiling. Each letter represented systematic change working in practice. Have you witnessed discrimination in travel, workplace, or any public space? Your voice carries more power than you might realize. Share your story in the comments below. Every documented experience becomes crucial evidence for necessary systematic change and accountability. If this story inspired you to believe in fighting bias through strategic intelligence rather than emotional reaction, double tap this video and share it with someone who needs to understand how quiet strength and documented evidence create profound, lasting impact. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more powerful stories, proving that the most effective response to injustice isn't rage or retaliation. It's intelligent, strategic action that prevents countless others from experiencing the same discrimination. Remember, sometimes the person sitting calmly in Seat 12A, wearing food stains as evidence of assault, is exactly the catalyst the world needs to create systematic change affecting millions of lives. Sometimes the quietest voices, armed with law and documentation, create the most profound and lasting transformation.
The story you heard today wasn't cleaned up. It was told exactly as it happened. At Black Voices Uncut, we believe that's the only way truth can live. If you felt something, hit like, comment, and your reaction, and subscribe. Every week, we bring you voices that refuse to be silenced.